Hey, everybody, welcome to a new episode of Walk in Faith. I'm excited to be sitting down with Scott Baio, who was also born in Bensonhurst or in the Brooklyn area. Scott, it's a pleasure to meet you and to sit down with you.
My pleasure, man. Thank you. We're sort of old neighbors.
Yeah, amazing. But we all moved out of Bensonhurst. My mother just moved out recently, so yes, it's a changed community. But today I want to talk about this film, God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. I've watched David's films for the past, got to be over 10 years. I've reviewed, I've sat down with him, but this film is different. And I really believe that this film, this is the exact perfect time for a film like this. But I'm curious, how did you get involved? And when they did approach you about this film, what was your first sort of reaction, initial reaction after reading the script?
I met David A.R. White at school. Our kids went to the same school in Los Angeles, and we became friendly. And I did another film with him a couple of years ago called Courting Mom and Dad. Good movie. And then he called me. He says, "Hey, I got this script. God's Not Dead, in God We Trust." He says, "Would you take a read?" And sure. What role? Yeah. Wesley. He's like, "Okay." And I read it. And I thought, "Oh, this would be kind of fun." It was a well-written script, and the character was a bit of a jerk, with a bit of a creep, which is always kind of fun to play. And I signed on to it, and also I thought the message in it was really, really powerful. And that I mean, it's as simple as that.
It's funny when I first the first line, I think I was like, oh, this is not Scott. This is not the Scott we know. And I was like trying to think, I'm like, I wonder what he leaned on to become that character. Because like you said, that's he was a jerk. I mean, there's a lot of one-liners in there where I'm like, this is not Scott. But the message is so powerful. Like I'm watching this film and the first God's Not Dead had such a call to action. And there were so many really important things. The first opening line, like in the credits, where they say, oh, the government's trying to divide us. And I'm listening to this and I'm saying to myself, like, we see this happening in society now. And you're Scott, you're very outspoken about your faith, about your political beliefs. So when you started to sort of read the script and you heard that, especially that opening line, how do you feel about that? Do you believe that the government's trying to separate us, divide us? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I do. I think you divide and conquer, and I don't really have to tell you which side is doing that, but I think that's a plan. I think the other big plan is to slowly take God out of everything. And you don't have to be a holy roller. I'm trying to be a good Christian and a good man. But to take I think the plan is, and what do I know? I'm just some actor who lives in Florida now, is to take God out of everything so that government becomes God.
Mm.
And I think at that point we're done. But I hope movies like this and other people will start to, other people who see it or other people who are feeling the same way will kind of wake up and realize what's happening.
No, I agree. I mean, you see it happening. I mean, I worked for the church for a long time and I see it happening, even just church attendance, people not connected to the church at all. I mean, in the Catholic sort of world, there's like 30% of the people actually believe in the power of the Eucharist. So we see a decline. And at the same time, we see our religious freedom being taken away. And I think that's one thing is because it's whether it's just culture and society has changed dramatically. Like you said earlier, too, when I grew up, I thought everyone was Catholic or Christian. And I see that now it's completely changed where most people don't identify with any religion at all. And if you even talk about religion on social media or in this public space or at work, you're canceled, you're ostracized. I mean, in Hollywood, I mean, tell me, I mean, that can't be something where you could just go around talking about who you support politically or you believe in Jesus Christ. What would happen to you or what has happened to you if you were to talk about that?
Well, you could in Hollywood you could talk about your faith, but you no you talk about your faith, but you can't be a conservative. That's the third rail, right? So um, again, we've become us and them. And I don't know. I kind of have a theory as to when that happened, but I don't get it. I mean, I can remember, 10, 15, 20 years ago, nobody, yeah, you're a Republican, oh, you're a Democrat, yeah, you're an idiot, and whatever. And you was friends, but you know, for me, it's the media. and it's all the media. I think the media does not want God in anything. The media is driving a wedge between people, because if I smoke cigars occasionally, and if I go into and I've been to lounges, and there was a lounge I went to in LA a lot, and all kinds of people came in that lounge. Whatever they were, whatever political, whatever faith, what didn't matter. We would sit there and we would have a political conversation and go at it. And at the end of the day, you get up, hey brother, I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye. So it leads me to believe that there's only a bunch of these nutballs out there, these nuts, and then nuts in the media too, are driving all this.
No, that's a great point. No, I agree with you. And you said something too. I don't know if it was an interview. You said about how you have a young daughter. I have a young son who's probably screaming in the background. And you were talking about how you wanted, I think, you wanted sort of, I don't want to say the world when we grew up, but it was definitely more conservative. The values were it was a little bit different, right? It was the good old days, as we like to say. And it's changed a lot. And when you said that, it really made me reflect on that. And one of the most, I think, important things and messages of this film is just the end. 40 million Christians aren't registered to vote, and was like 10 million don't vote. Like
No,
that is
40 million don't vote. 40 million don't vote. And I think only 15 million have registered.
isn't it amazing?
Yeah. Craig, to answer your question, I want my daughter to grow up in the exact country that I grew up in. Exact. It's not going to happen. If I had a magic wand, that's what I would want, but it's not going to happen. And I have I have four things that I want for my country. I want us to be God-fearing, prosperous, um, um, powerful, and safe. That's it. And that covers a lot of ground. And we're none of those things right now. And I'll never be able to get my daughter back to that time. But if those people, those 40 million people, and I'm sure, Craig, I'm sure they're pissed, and I'm sure they have problems with the country, and I'm sure they're complaining. Oh, look at this. You can't even say Merry Christmas anymore. Well, fine. You can complain about it, or you can do something about it. Get up off your couch or get out of your, wherever you are. I don't mean to demean you. Get up, be proactive, and just go vote, because you're going to wake up one day and God will be taken out of everything. And again, I'm not a holy roller. I'm not. You're Muslim, you're Greek Orthodox, I love all people. Don't try to jam me, and I won't jam you. That's it. And I'll hang out with you. I have a friend of mine who's an Orthodox Jew, and I love him, and I listen to him. I listen to what his faith is, and I find it fascinating. I don't really give a shoot. I don't care what your faith is. Just be a good human being. And we've gotten away from a lot of that. And that's what, listen, my daughter is more important than me, and my country is more important than me. So at this point in my life.
No, and I think it's great that God's using you, because if you were that holy roller, right, it would be you wouldn't relate to the same people, just like me. Like I have this strong accent, but I'm relating to a certain demographic and a certain audience. And the fact that you're saying that, how you get along with everyone. We're all brothers and sisters, right? I look at all my friends are all different walks of life, different religions, different backgrounds, and we all get along. And I think you're completely right. And I'm glad that God is using you. And a film like this, I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of David's films. He could attest to that. But this film really spoke to me. Just those statistics and the call to action and all of these just throughout the film, these things that we're all dealing with. And your point is so valid, because I just did a video the other day about religious freedom, and people are complaining about how we're losing our freedom. But then, like you said, they're not voting. Right? They're not voting. They're not attending mass. They're not talking about, preaching the gospel, talking about their faith, bringing people to Jesus, whatever. They're just sitting there complaining. Like a film like this will really sort of ignite people to get off the couch and to actually do something, because we still have a voice.
And you know what? You can vote by mail. You don't even have to leave your house. Just vote by mail. Do that. If 10% of those people vote, that will affect so much in the country. But whether they think politics is dirty, but or for whatever reason, they don't want to get involved. But I think people need to understand that unfortunately, politics is into everything. It's in every single aspect of our life, and it's disgusting to me. But it's the world we live in. It's in sports, it's in schools, it's in you get your hair cut, it's in society. It's just everything is revolves around who you're voting for, who you're voting for. And it's just unfortunate.
So where do
So
you?
if you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask because just I'm just thinking out loud. But like, let's say people don't continue to vote, right? And we see our religious freedoms being taken away, which they are. I mean, no one would argue with that. Where do you see the country? Where do you see us as just the population in the next 5, 10 years?
Well, wow, I don't know. I'm sure amazingly divided. Craig, I don't know. That's a scary proposition, because at that point, it seems to me there's no more rules. No laws won't matter because the laws really don't matter now. People in government lie and cheat and commit perjury all the time. The border is wide open. That's illegal to come in this country. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But if you take money or from the government, or you're a conservative, forget it. Forget it. Or if you're a conservative in general, they come after you for nothing. And I think that will get worse. I think they'll really try to stamp out Christianity
Yes, yes.
and conservatives. That's
You,
what I think.
you know what I think too? I think, and he says it earlier in the film, because we have run not for profits and how the grant money was misused. And I believe at some point they will remove, or not even remove, but restrict the 501(c)(3) status. The minute they make churches, not tax exempt, or make it harder for churches to
They'll go out of business.
operate
They'll
out
be
of
gone.
business. Because you see the colleges, the schools have a lot of them have sort of changed, right? I mean, because they're receiving government grants or they receive money from the government, and a lot of the morals and stuff, it's a Catholic college or a Christian college, just because of the 501(c)(3) status. But what they're teaching, it's not always in line with what we believe. And I believe at some point churches will also start to, whether they get denied 501(c)(3) status or grants won't be sort of given out the same way. But I think that that's the next thing over time they'll come for, is the not-for-profit status.
And they'll take God off money, and you'll just have, I don't even know what country we would be. I don't even know we'd be I don't even know what we would be. Honestly, it's kind of frightening, but that's
But
where we're headed.
no, and I agree, Scott. Films like this, really. I mean, the first one. I mean, just David's message, like text people, right? I mean, how many people were texting? And this film at the end too, like just thinking about that, I said to my wife, like we were discussing how many people don't vote, and films like this really are powerful, and they have the ability to really move people.
Yeah.
And I commend you.
Thank you. And at the end of this film, there's a QR code on the screen, so you can vote. Can't vote there, but you can register to vote right there at the end of the movie. And it's on September 12th. God's not dead, in God we trust. And um, it's beside the fact that it's an important film, it's a very good film, Craig. It's an enjoyable film.
No, I agree. I
What we
enjoyed it.
think
Now,
about.
listen, I've seen a lot of films, especially David's films. I really enjoyed it. Now, Scott, one last question. Do you see yourself doing, maybe getting more involved politically, doing more faith-based films? Because you're outspoken. I mean, you can't, that. So what do you see yourself doing?
I I don't know, man. Uh, this movie, God's Not Dead, has sort of steered me in a direction that I didn't even know that I didn't even think of. So I like it. Yeah, I'll probably get involved politically. I'm not going to run for anything. I think you have to be a crazy person to run. But um, I'm going to start making some speeches and doing some stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we work along Chris Macchio, who's Donald Trump's tenor. He's a very close friend of mine, just sang at the RNC. So if you ever need him to sing for any of your events, if you need any help, I'll be there with you. I'll bring some of your sandwiches from Leone
Nice. Thank you, Craig.
Mozzarella. I'd be more than
Good.
happy to help you. And if you're ever in Brooklyn, we film a cooking show in Brooklyn as well. I'd love
Okay.
to talk to you, and we'd invite you to Brooklyn anytime,
Thank
anytime
you.
you can make it.
All right, brother.
Thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Walk in Faith. Always remember, you have the ability to inspire and evangelize through your words and actions. God bless you.